What does it mean to be a real nurse? And why do some nurses get shut out and ostracized? Let's talk about unnecessary exclusion and judgment right here on episode 212 of The Nurse Keith Show. Hello and welcome to the Nurse Keith Show. I'm so grateful you're listening, and maybe you've been listening for months, or maybe you've been hanging out with me here on the airways for years. Thank you for being part of the growing Nurse Keith Nation. This podcast is all about you and your nursing career, and I'm here to share education, inspiration, ideas, and inspiring interviews to get you moving in a positive direction. And did you know you can leave a rating and review for the Nurse Keith Show over on iTunes and Apple Podcasts? That's right. It helps other people find the show. And if you do it for me and let me know, I will read your review on air and thank you in person. Meanwhile, if you want to see the show notes for this episode, hop on over to nursekeith.com/the word episode and the number 212. So, if you follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/nursekeithcoaching, you may have seen a post that I put out during Nurses Week 2019 asking for essays to be submitted by nurses about their careers in exchange for prizes. Well, the winner of this particular Nurses Week contest was Heather. That's a pseudonym. She lives here in the United States and she is a nurse, and she wrote a wonderful essay that was very heartfelt and pulled at my heartstrings, actually. And it is all about the ways in which nurses judge one another and ostracize certain nurses who don't fit the fabric of what other nurses feel they are supposed to be and how they are supposed to go about their career. I'd like to read this to you, and then I want to comment on it. So just sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Don't touch that dial. I'm going to read you Heather's essay forthwith. I'm not a real nurse. Sure, it reads BSN RN on my badge, but that doesn't count. Yes, I'm on your unit 12 hours, but I don't really belong there. I answer call lights, medicate my patients, and work with the same doctors, but I'm not a true caregiver like the rest. I'm not sure my unit manager would even recognize me out of my scrubs, outside of work, in the real world. I went to nursing school and passed boards just like you, yet somehow I'm inferior. I only work weekends, you see. I'm not working, quote-unquote, the trenches throughout the week like the rest of my nurse coworkers. I swing in on the weekend and then I'm gone. Most managers don't even show up when I'm there. Oh, you're here today? I haven't seen you in so long, is a common greeting for me. I'm a per diem, weekend working RN in an acute care hospital. My home unit is a 30-bed med-surg unit, yet I don't always work there. I'm first to float, and I often do. I work various units alongside lots of different nurses. Some have been there a long time, and some are brand new faces to me. I'm not benefited, and I don't qualify for any bonuses or prizes that my full-time coworkers might receive. There are no Nurses Week goodies for me, and that's okay. I'm home with my kids during the week, volunteering at school, carpooling, and being there when they get home. That's my bonus. The bummer, though, is I feel this undercurrent of I'm not really a nurse since I'm not there all the time from some nurses. I'm not really part of my unit because I'm not there when administrators are there, watching, correcting, questioning during the week. I'm not a travel nurse, but I feel like one. Oh, I must be rich since I don't have to work full-time is what I've been told as well. Sigh, hardly the case. Plus, newsflash, weekends are super hectic nowadays in a hospital. The days of sleepy Sundays are over. You do the same work as is done during the week without the help of ancillary staff. It's just as tough. Anyway, I don't always get staff memos and in-services about what's new at work either. I find a new challenge each time I work. Despite this, I still manage to get through every weekend. I do my job, and I do it well. I love patient care, and my patients thank me for taking good care of them. Then I punch out and go home at the end of my shift, hopefully without overtime like everyone else. In the end, I too wipe butts, update whiteboards, pass meds, code patients, and everything else you full-timers do. My feet hurt at the end of my shift just like you. I may not always be there, but when I am, I do my best to offer my help and be a good team member. Next time someone floats to your unit, welcome them. Let them know their presence is appreciated. Being short-staffed sucks, right? I may not be there all the time, but I like to feel I'm part of a team and not a solo artist. I love my patients. I enjoy the challenge. I'm a registered nurse who deserves a bit of recognition every now and then, too. So I'm going to have a copy of this essay in the show notes for you to check out in detail. It's also on my Facebook page. And I just wanted to bring your attention to the fact that there are nurses out there who feel that way, and maybe you, yes, you listening right now, I see you, I hear you. Maybe you feel this way too. Now, on this show, I have interviewed Dr. Renee Thompson, who's the national or arguably international expert in nurse bullying and incivility. I've talked about bullying before, and sometimes this type of uncivil behavior comes in the form of exclusion and ostracizing of people who are what we could say maybe a little different. A float nurse, a travel nurse, someone who's coming in per diem to help out. Don't those people deserve recognition just like everyone else? Don't they deserve that recognition? I think they do. And if you are one of those people who don't get that recognition, that hurts. It really hurts. Now, there's been research done on the pain caused by exclusion. And using functional MRIs, it's been discovered that when you are socially excluded, when you feel that pain of not being included, the same area of the brain lights up that lights up in the face of physical pain. Did you know that? So exclusion hurts. It doesn't cause physical pain, but it causes psychic, emotional, maybe even spiritual pain, because humans are tribal. At our best, genetically, we are tribal. We want to connect. We want to be welcomed. We want to feel part of something larger than ourselves. We want to be part of a community. We want to be accepted and seen and heard. We want our feelings and our thoughts to be known. That is what it means to be human for most of us. Now, of course, there are people out there who they don't really give a crap if they're excluded. It doesn't bother them at all. They just rolls off their back. They do their work and they go home. Good for them. That is great that they can do that. But for you or anyone else who feels the pain of exclusion, who feels like, man, no one is really recognizing that I'm a human being. Nobody is seeing me for who I am. That is a pain that no one deserves to experience. Now we're going to take a short pause for the cause, and I will be back for the second half of this brief episode of the Nurse Keith Show. Thanks for hanging out here for episode 212. We will be right back and talk about inclusion rather than exclusion. So now we're going to take a pause for the cause for just a moment. Please consider becoming a patron of the Nurse Keith Show, just like other listeners who value the show so much that they want to give just a little bit each month to support the work we're doing here. When you pledge, you not only get the satisfaction of helping produce and support the show, you also get some pretty nifty premiums and gifts directly from yours truly. Just head over to patreon.com/Nurse Keith to read all about it. That's patreon.com/Nurse Keith. Also, please consider signing up for my newsletter at nursekeith.com so that you can receive my bi-weekly message just for you. Finally, if someone you know could benefit from career coaching with me, please consider referring them. And if they become a paying client, even if they do one session, you'll receive credit for 1 hour of coaching with me, and there's no expiration date on that credit, and you can keep it in your back pocket until you need it most. Remember, that you can refer as many people as you like and continue to earn those coaching credits over time. What a deal! Those are my sincere asks of you, dear listener. So now let's dig back into today's topic. And welcome back to episode 212 of the Nurse Keith Show. Thanks for hanging out with me here on the airwaves. Of course, the show notes are over at nursekeith.com, and that's /episode 212. So before the break, I read to you this essay, the winner of the Nurses Week contest. She has some books and other goodies in the mail to her this week to thank her for putting out this wonderful essay, this painful essay that shows us that some nurses feel like they are not treated the way that they should be just because they don't work full-time. So now, rather than focus on exclusion, which we have already covered, I want to talk about inclusion, the concept of inclusion. Like I was saying before the break, human beings like to feel included. They like to feel accepted. Like I said before the break, we are tribal. We are community-oriented, most of us anyway. And when we're in a workplace, we want to feel part of that workplace. We want to feel valued and recognized. And, getting a tote bag or a monogrammed pen or something on Nurses Week, or maybe some flowers or candy, that's nice. But that isn't the kind of recognition that most people need and want. What most people want and need is to be seen, for someone to come up to them and say, "Hey, I know you're not here all the time, but thanks for floating today. You are really helping out. We really appreciate you being here." Or, "Hey, there's some cake in the break room. I know you're not usually here, but we really want to make sure that you get a piece too, because you're here working hard. You're busting butt like all of us, and we want you to experience, and we want you to have some pleasure as well during the course of your shift." So it doesn't really take much to include someone, and it doesn't take much to exclude someone. So put yourself in the shoes of a nurse walking onto your unit. He or she may be a travel nurse, a per diem, a float. They walk onto your unit. They may not know where everything is. They may not know anyone on the unit, or they might know a couple people. So they come there because that's their job. That's their job, to come and help. They're there to help. They're there to serve. You have probably done the same. You've probably floated or gone to a different unit or a different agency or a different team, and you've been there to help out under duress when times are hard or when we're short-staffed. So for you, when you walk into that unit, how do you want to be seen? How do you want to be recognized? What do you want people to say? What kind of facial expressions and body language will help you to feel welcome? So that nurse who you welcomed onto your unit and you said, "Hey, go grab a piece of cake. There's birthday cake down in the break room." Or you said, "Hey, thanks for being here." How does that feel to that nurse, just for you to look in his eyes and say, "Hey, you're appreciated. This means a lot to us, and your presence here does not go unnoticed." What happens in someone's heart? What happens in their brain, in their soul or spirit, if you will? What happens when they feel like, wow, I've really just been recognized for who I am? Someone sees that I walked onto this unit today blind and deaf, not knowing where anything is or what anyone is doing, and I'm just going to figure it out, knuckle down, take care of my patients, do my best, and then I'll go home. That feels so good. It's always better to think about what it would be like to walk in the shoes of another person, or the running shoes, if you will, and what is it like to be that person who is a stranger among strangers, who is someone who is generally not part of the parties and the celebrations and the recognition and the kudos that come down from whomever is offering those kudos. We need to make sure we include one another, that we're kind to one another. What is nursing really about? Nursing is about compassion. It's about patient care, obviously, of course. It's also about being part of a team. Now, yes, there are some rogue nurses out there who work alone. Well, I don't mean rogue. You know what I mean. There are nurses out there who work in home health, or maybe they're self-employed, or they're doing concierge nursing or something like that. So yeah, there's plenty of people out there who work alone. I work alone in my house. I'm sitting at my desk right now in my home. And yes, that can be kind of isolating. But when you're working in a workplace, when you're part of a team, when you're pitching in, we are about, or we should be about, inclusion. We should be about gratitude and compassion. We've talked before on this show about new nurses. When a new nurse walks onto the unit and her preceptor acts like she doesn't even want that new nurse to be there. And when the new nurse asks a question, the preceptor says, "All right, I'll help you. You've probably heard it. You've probably seen it. Maybe you've done it yourself. Maybe you're guilty as anyone else because you were busy and impatient and the new nurse was kind of a pain and you didn't want to have to show her where the catheters are or where to find paper for the printer. You didn't want to have to bother with that." We always have to remember, what is this person's lived experience? What is my lived experience? How can I show up for this person and be a good human being? Be a good team member, include and not exclude, be kind and not unkind, be compassionate and not uncompassionate. How can I do that? How can I make it better? How can I be better? How can we collectively be better and stronger and more powerful and more cohesive as a team? So if you have a really tight team, yes, you're all connected, you go out for beers, you hang out, you help each other out. When someone walks in who's not part of the clique, remember that cliquishness, that goes back to junior high school. And I've seen it in action in hospitals, in community health centers, and home health agencies. That petty cattiness that keeps us separated, that keeps people in their personal silos and makes them feel like they're walled off from everyone else. No one wants to, and no one should experience such. And I encourage you, yes, you're listening right now, I can tell, you are the person who can change it. It's not up to someone else. It's not up to Dr. Renee Thompson. It's not up to me. We do our best. We bring these messages out there. But you, with boots on the ground, you are the one who can change the dynamic. You can do it for yourself in the ways that you interact with your colleagues and coworkers and all the other people with whom you interact on a day-to-day basis at work. You can also do it for the team. What I mean is that, one, is you lead by example. You show who you are, your best self, by being and doing what you think is the best way to be and to do, and to connect and be present for others and to be kind. Two, when you see someone being excluded, you bring them into the fold. You put your arm around their shoulders and say, "Hey, come with me. We're all having a quick cup of coffee in the break room. Come with me. Sit with me. I'll introduce you to my coworkers and tell them what an amazing job you're doing." Or just go up to that nurse and say, "Hey, awesome job. You're doing great. Thank you again for being here." And three, if you see someone else actively excluding, actively being unkind or unsupportive or uncompassionate, go up to that person and say, I know you're really stressed, and I saw that you were a little curt with that float nurse who's here to help us. Could you try maybe to be a little kinder? She's working really hard. I can tell. She's got sweat on her forehead. She's running around. We can be kind to her. She's here to help us. She's here for us. Let's return the favor and be there for her too. You can approach this in many ways. We've talked on this show before about confronting bullies, and that is not where I'm going right now. This isn't really classic bullying, but exclusion is one subset of bullying or incivility, that aberrant behavior that we nurses seem to be so good at these days, that way of committing what Dr. Thompson calls lateral violence or horizontal violence, violence within our profession, within our units, from one colleague equal to another. We can stop it. We can take responsibility for it, but we are the ones who have to do it. We cannot wait for others to step up, because we have to be the change that we want to see in the world. So I really want to thank Heather, again, that's a pseudonym, for taking the time to write that very moving and somewhat painful essay. I hope things can change for her. I hope she can find a place where she's appreciated and valued, where her worth is seen and recognized and acknowledged. No, she doesn't need a tote bag. No, she doesn't need to be taken out for a drink. No, she just needs for someone to say, hey, thanks for being here. Awesome job, etc., etc., etc. You can be that person for the Heather on your unit. Are you ready to do that? Well, there you have it. Thanks for listening to the Nurse Keith Show. Remember, the show notes and Heather's wonderful essay are at nursekeith.com/the word episode and the number 212. I hope you feel uplifted and empowered and possibly energized to make some positive change in your workplace. And I want you to take inspired action every day in the interest of your personal and professional growth. Did you know that there are job listings and other awesome resources over at nursekeith.com? That's right. You can find jobs from both reload.com and ZipRecruiter in the resources section of nursekeith.com, as well as other great stuff that can help you take your career to the next level and be the best nurse that you can be. The Nurse Keith Show is edited and produced by Tim Hollowell and his team at thepodcastinggroup.com, and Mark Capispisen is our social media ringmaster. Please tune in again and again as we continue to explore how to powerfully and consistently elevate your nursing career into your very own professional stratosphere. Be well, dig deep, seek joy, keep in touch. And this is Nurse Keith saying adios until next time from beautiful Santa Fe, New Mexico. See you on the flip side.